Welcome back, everybody, to Two Spot Monkeys Live. I am Jim, joined as always by Tom. It is episode 111. Tom, how you doing?
Jim, it's been a really crazy week. It's been a good week. It's been an exciting week. I don't know if I mentioned before. I have taken a position as a middle school baseball coach this spring. So my boys had their first game on Tuesday. As is always the joke in Michigan, give it a day, you'll get all 4 seasons in one day. Last week in Michigan, we hit record highs, like low to mid 80s throughout the course of the week. So our first week of formal practice was wonderful. Turn that into this week. Monday, we had snow again, nothing accumulating, but we had snow and we had an indoor practice on Monday, not something you really want to do the day before your first game. But then on our first game on Tuesday, it was only like 47 degrees and it was very blustery. That being said, our boys went out there, we won 3-0, and we threw a combined no-hitter. So it was pretty awesome. Pretty cool way to get the season started. And our second game is scheduled for today. We've already had a pivot in our opponent because of a postponement and umpire issues. So we'll see. Hopefully 8 hours from now, I'll be on the field coaching. But I also don't know what I don't know. So,
well, good luck to your team and keep flying the W. And quick funny story on baseball. So we've talked about before here, and Tom, you obviously know, I run a trivia company on the side, and there's a number of folks that I've become friends with now over the last, it'll be 5 years next week that I started that company. And there's a gentleman who plays on my Tuesday night that is a diehard Cincinnati Reds fan. And so the Reds had beaten the Cubs like the night before on a Monday night, and they were playing them on Tuesday night. So he comes in with a flagpole, a portable flagpole with not the W flag that you see behind me if you're on YouTube, but an L flag for the loss. And literally as he walks into the bar, puts it next to his table, raises the pole, raises the flag, like this whole dramatic thing that he does. And I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. We got it. We got it. I'm like, I can't really argue it. You beat us last night. And so the bar that I'm at on Tuesday nights has like whatever the MLB, it's not Sunday ticket, like NFL, but direct MLB, whatever it is, the package so they can get all the games. So I asked the owner, I was like, hey, do you happen to have the Cubs game available? And he's like, oh yeah, I can get them all. So I said, could you put it up on one of the TVs? So he did. And when he flipped it on, because Randy, the gentleman who had come in with the L flag, said, yeah, and they're beating them 3-1 right now too. And I thought, oh, hey, yeah, oh crap. So we put it up on the TV, and sure enough, yep, the Reds were up 3-1. The Cubs were at bat at that point. By the time they finished their at bat, they were up 8-3. And Randy had this stupid L flag standing over his table, and to say that I did not ridicule him on the mic throughout the entire evening would be false. So it's been a little fun. Baseball's fun, and it should be fun. And my Cubs are 2 games out of first. They have a winning record. What is going on? I thought they were going to be a little better, but they've been playing well. Your Tigers are in the hunt. I know they're not 500, but they're in the hunt.
We put together a pretty good win streak from the end of the week last week through the beginning of the week this week. Whenever we can take a series from the Guardians, I'm on board.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. And you're only, according to the standings, I'm looking at 3.5 games out. So, it's early. It's early. So thanks for tuning in to Two Spot Monkeys baseball podcast. But it will keep us updated on how the team does throughout this season. We'll be pulling for him there in the greater Grand Rapids area.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the team name? I gotta ask.
Yeah, so it's the Potter's House Pumas. So it's where my kids go to school. My son's on the team. It's a middle school team, so it's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade boys. I got some great 8th grade leaders. I have one of my 8th graders who's never played baseball. He actually is an exchange student, so cricket is his sport of choice. So it's been interesting to watch him swing a bat. Also catching, which I think is a thing in cricket, but with a different glove. This young man has been hit in the eye twice last week and came back to practice with a shiner, only to come back and then get hit in that exact same eye the next day. And And I was like, if I don't lose this young man, he's got some stones, and he has not yet quit. He's not happy. There was a time where he went to the outfield and he wore almost entire catcher's gear. And I said, hey, we can't play like that. But I go, I understand your concern of not wanting to get hit in the face with the ball.
Poor kid. Oh man, kids are awesome. I love kids sports. Like, it's just watching them come into their own and figure it out. And yeah, it's good stuff. We'll keep us updated on the Pumas throughout the season. We'll be pulling for them here at Two Spot Monkeys and our listeners as well. We'll have to order some merch, support the team.
There you go. Love that.
Well, we thought that this week we would focus a little bit more, and not that we won't squirrel, I'm sure, into WWE at some point.
We've already squirreled. This is a wrestling podcast.
Almost 6 minutes, and we're now talking about wrestling for the first time. But we thought we'd focus a little bit more on AEW because our last number of podcasts have been very WWE heavy with WrestleMania season. That makes a lot of sense that it would be. But we wanted to get back over to the other major national brand in America anyways, and talk about AEW. So Tom mentioned before we clicked record that the last time we really talked about AEW was around the Vikingo Kenny Omega match, which seems like it was eons ago to me when you said that.
Yeah, roughly a calendar month ago, give or take.
Yeah, I was thinking it must have been about a month ago. So yeah, Tom's got the results roughly there for the last, say, month-ish. And we thought we'd just kind of run through them and then chit-chat about what do we like, what do we not like. I don't know if you want to stop after each week and chat, or do you want to just run through them all and then chat, Tom? What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and run through them all. And it's probably going to be the last 3 weeks without last night, even though we may talk a little bit about last night because you and I both are not completely up to date on our viewing. So basically this brings us back to the end of the month of March. Dynamite on March 29th saw Jack Perry over Matt Hardy. Saw the Blackpool Combat Club in trios action over Dalton Castle and the Boys. Saw Kenny Omega defend the IWGP US title against Jeff Cobb. Saw Orange Cassidy defend against The Butcher. Saw Ruby Soho over Willow Nightingale. And then saw the return of Adam Cole over Daniel Garcia, where then at the end of that match, you saw Chris Jericho begin to get involved. Following up that same week, which was a very busy week because that was WrestleMania week as well. On Friday for Rampage, you had Sammy Guevara over Takeshita. You had Kings of the Black Throne, House of Black. Brody King and Malachi Black fight Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta to a no contest. Taya Valkyrie, who has come into AEW back when they were in Canada in the month of March, over Marina Shafir, and then Juice Robinson over Action Andretti. So that was March 31st. Then carrying over into the first full week of April, Dynamite started off with Ricky Starks versus Juice Robinson, which had been building, but that match was a no contest because you had, I would say, a curveball, Jay White, debut or formally debut as an AEW talent. He'd been in AEW before under New Japan auspices, but he joined Juice Robinson in a kind of de facto Bullet Club. Bullet Club Gold, thank you. And they attacked Ricky Starks. You had a trios title match where you had House of Black in their full regalia of all three of them defend over best friends Trent, Chuck, and Orange Cassidy. Jamie Hayter defended against Rio, who had been being built up. Sammy Guevara over Commander or Commander, depending on how you choose to pronounce it. Hook against Ethan Page to defend the FTW title. Blackpool Combat Club over some nobodies that weren't even named because the match was so hot and heavy. You then had the big kind of draw of this week, which was the FTR return to the ring, where it was FTR's careers in AEW against the AEW World Tag Team titles. They were able to unseat the Guns and become two-time AEW Tag Team champions and save their AEW careers. They then did a promo in either the Friday that followed or just last week, where they've indicated they're now with AEW for the next 4 years, and that is where they plan, as of today, to conclude their pro wrestling careers. Rampage on that Friday had another FTW title match. Hook defended again against Ethan Page. This was under FTW rules because of how things went on Wednesday. You had the Acclaimed and the JAS in a 8-man over LSG, Bobby Orlando, and the Infantry, because they were teasing that Acclaimed were going to be joining JAS. And that has since not materialized. JAS has attacked them, and so that's a brewing issue. Darby over Lee Moriarty in a great match, and then Julia Hart over Anna Jay. The same night, you had Battle of the Six, which I have a point of contention with, and we'll talk about that. You had the AEW International title, Orange Cassidy over Realistico, Jade Cargill over Billy Stark to the TBS title, and then the main event of AEW's Battle for the Belts, the Ring of Honor tag team titles of the Lucha Bros over Powerhouse Hobbs and QT Marshall. So that was the first week of April. Then that brings us to last week, which will bring us to the most current with what we've seen and what's happened. Dynamite on April 12th, Darby over Swerve Strickland, which came about from the previous Friday when Mogul Affiliates and the Embassy have apparently merged. So it's now Embassy Affiliates or Mogul Embassy.
Mogul Embassy, I think, is what I remember them
Something
saying.
along those lines, yeah. And it appears we haven't been getting Gates of Agony visually here. We've been getting Brian Cage and Swerve. And then we've also had Swerve lose Parker Boudreaux and then the former Major League guy, whatever his name was. TNT title, you had Powerhouse Hobbs over Silas Young. International title, Orange Cassidy over Buddy Matthews, continuing kind of the thread of House of Black versus that crew. Tag match, Moxley and Claudio against Cutler and Nakazawa. The Elite had been put on the shelf, but then the Elite actually returned that night and saved their comrades to re-escalate the Elite Blackpool Combat Club issue. Tony Storm and Ruby Soho versus Sky Blue and Rio. And then Jericho, Chris Jericho, the main event over Keith Lee, where you saw the continuation of the Adam Cole, Chris Jericho build that's coming and is in process. And then you also saw Swerve get involved with Keith Lee at the end of that match as well, tying back to their team in late 22. Then lastly, that same week on Rampage, you had the IWGP tag titles. You had Aussie Open over Best Friends. You had Mark Briscoe, Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh over the Meat Man over the Spanish Announce Project and the Man Scout Jake Manning. Taya Valkyrie again racking up wins over Emi Sakura. And then in the main event, Jack Perry over returning Sean Spears. Sean Spears coming out and basically saying, hey, I've been gone because I have a child, but I'm back and I want the AEW title. And as the storyline has been unfolding, it's the pillars, all four pillars, Jack Perry, Darby Allin, Sammy, and MJF, all being in that title scene. So that is through last week, Friday, all of the AEW results and kind of I've hinted at some of the stories. So I'm going to pitch it back to you, Jim, now that I've laid that out. What have you seen? What have you liked? What have you seen that you haven't liked? There's a couple main threads of stories that are going on. And so I think this is what we're going to see continue on the path to Double or Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we're about a month out from Double or Nothing, a little bit more. I've seen basically everything. I don't think I watched Battle of the Belts at all because honestly, they've kind of made me feel like Battle of the Belts is about as important as Rampage most of the time, which is to say not. And now they're going to add potentially a 2-hour live show, which is interesting. 2-hour live show on Saturday nights. Now, if it's live, that makes me feel like it's more important. Thanks. I needed another 2 hours to cram into my wrestling viewing in a week. I can't even get Ring of Honor watched, and now AEW is going to do another 2 hours live. But the storyline-wise, to talk about those things, I'm liking the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite. I mean, that's some of your top guys right there, involved in a kind of a blood feud. So I'm interested to continue to see that play out. It kind of feels like maybe there's a 6-man coming at Double or Nothing, and that would be a really cool trios match if that's what it's coming at some point. I don't know.
And one thing I didn't mention because it wasn't in the results because he hasn't had a match. Bryan Danielson also returned. So the last time we had seen Bryan Danielson previously was post Revolution, and he there was the backstage promo where he's like, "I just am going to go home," And you and I had talked a little bit about that and what that might mean. Well, fast forward 2 or 3 weeks after that, his return home apparently is returning to the Blackpool Combat Club.
Which he never had officially left. They had just kind of de-emphasized his involvement there. I took it to mean he literally went home for like 3 weeks and then he came back. Went home, played with his kids, and came back and kicked somebody in the face. So, so I've enjoyed that. I'm enjoying it. It's interesting. Jericho, and I've said this before, like, is a guy who's like, for me at this point in his career, but I've enjoyed the subtlety of the Jericho Cole thing. Now I know they have a face-to-face confrontation last night that I haven't seen yet. I haven't read exactly what happened or anything like that. And I've seen some hints at some other things that I think happened last night, judging from tweets and Facebook things that I didn't scroll by fast enough. But I've enjoyed that. And I think it's not a bad person for Cole to have his first program with coming back. Like, Cole is massively over in this return, I feel like. And Cole's always been really over, which I've been a big Adam Cole fan since early Ring of Honor days. When I first, in Evolve, when I first kind of saw the guy, and I was like, this dude's got something. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And I think Jericho's a decent he's former world champion. Jericho can always make things seem important. So that's good. Jericho also is a pretty safe worker. And I think given the history of Adam Cole and his concussions, like, throwing him in there with some young gun that's just learning and might get a little waylaid with a kick or something, maybe don't do that just yet. So I think Jericho's a really good choice for that first program. And I've just liked the subtleties of the little look backs as they're like leaving the ring from each other. And it's an interesting, different way that I've never seen a feud start or a program start. So I am interested to see this, promo or face-to-face thing from last night and kind of see where that leads. So I've enjoyed that. So to go to your point, Tom, about the Battle of the Belts, the AEW Battle of the Belts, Ring of Honor being the titles that were in the main event, which is what you have. Ring of Honor TV now, you have Ring of Honor pay-per-views. Split it. You don't need to keep doing this crossover stuff. Stop. Yeah. And I don't know if they're doing it because they want to promote it so that more people will subscribe to Honor Club. I hate to say it, but I think you've got who you're going to get for Honor Club at this point. Like, I just don't think you're going in this day and age. Tony Khan says there's 15,000 subscribers to Honor Club. Honestly, I think that's not a bad number because really you're paying for the backlog and a weekly show that, while I think it's good, if you really look at it, they're not doing matches that lead to other big matches on the show, if that makes sense. Like, if you run through those results of Ring of Honor, like just kind of browse through them week to week to week, it's kind of Ring of Honor dark. Like, most of the matches, there's not a lot of question about who's going to win them. And so it's not like AEW or WWE or, even MLW or places like that where the matches lead to new matches on the show week to week. Like, I just don't feel like he's got that under control yet. I also don't quite understand, and maybe this is a conversation for our third point later on. There's some talk of, with this 2-hour Saturday show, kind of doing a soft or hard split of the roster. And the Saturday show will have a roster and the Wednesday show will have a roster. You don't need a new show to do that. You own 2 companies. Just split it with Ring of Honor and AEW. Put Ring of Honor on Saturday nights live. Like, and maybe Warner Brothers doesn't want that. I understand that. But they might want it if you made it seem more wantable. Is that a word? Wantable. I've liked FTR. I don't know if you saw the picture. Apparently, the nameplates that they have on the World Tag titles, they don't say Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood. They both say Jay Briscoe.
Oh, that's cool. I did not see that yet.
I just saw that yesterday. They're doing it as a tribute, obviously, to Jay, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that, and I like that AEW was like, yeah, let's do that. That's it feels like that was probably a FTR idea to do, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm glad they're still in AEW. That makes the most sense for them. I didn't want to have to chase them to find them and see what cool things they were doing in random indie number 432. So, and I couldn't see them going back to WWE. Honestly, with FTR, and sounds like it probably may never happen, I couldn't see them going back to WWE unless there was 100% assurance that Vince was gone. And obviously, in the last little bit, we've gone from, oh yeah, he's gone, to maybe. So I'm glad FTR's in AEW. I think that makes a lot of sense. I hope they get to work a little more New Japan as well. I would assume that's maybe part of the deal. Just having them in like the World Tag League would be really cool, because that feels like New Japan has gotten really bad at booking their tag division for the most part. So that would be interesting. So I've enjoyed a lot of different things. There's some things I haven't enjoyed too, but I'm curious what you've enjoyed.
Yeah, so no, I've also really enjoyed the build of the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club. I was interested in your response of a potential 6-man coming, because then it would mean that one of the 4 that wouldn't be involved on the Blackpool side, which I understand that the Elite only has 3 by nature, but I think they have allies that if they wanted to go more than 3, they could. So but if it were to be a 6-man, who do you see?
I would see Danielson, Mox, and Claudio.
Okay.
I just think that's a bigger, as much as I want Wheeler in there, because I think they're doing a nice, I like this heel Wheeler. And I think they're doing a nice job of building him. I just think that's the bigger trios. After I said 6-man, I'm like, yeah, it could be an 8-man though. You could, Hangman would make a lot of sense. In that 4th spot, if they went an 8-man, or do they do like a Blood and Guts, or something along those lines?
I'm waiting for the Blood and Guts announcement, and I don't expect it to be at the pay-per-view. I expect that to be on Dynamite again. But we'll see, right? Like, I just don't know. I would expect, again, Stadium Stampede or something, Asylum in the Arena. With this collective, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, and we'll see how it plays out. It's been really good. It's been an actually crazy, I would argue, like blood and violence feud, which has been not a breath of fresh air, but it's been interesting to have the Elite in that side of it.
Yes,
because they have not been really in that vein that I recall before.
I have to admit that last week, the Cutler and Nakazawa match, I wasn't expecting the Elite to come back and save them, so that was cool. But I literally, like, when it came to that match, I was like, oh, I got to set everything down and watch this, because they are going to murder 2 people. Cutler and Nakazawa have not been positioned as any sort of a threat in the ring. I know Cutler actually has a halfway decent record because he beats nobodies on Dark. But Nakazawa, when you wrestle in a sweater vest and khakis, and a head Bluetooth or a headpiece for the phone, you're probably not going to win a lot of matches. So I eagerly watched it to see the violence, basically, and then was pleasantly surprised when I was like, oh, cool, all right, we're getting to that point where now the Elite are back and the come up and starts, and so that was cool.
I'm big on this the 4 Pillars story towards the world title match at Double or Nothing. It took a new turn last night, and again, I haven't seen it entirely play out yet, so I don't want to speak too much on it. I originally thought we were definitely heading for a 4-way. We may still be headed for a 4-way. I don't know, one way or the other.
And it seems like, I almost feel like as much as they've built it now, if it turns into some sort of a one-on-one, I feel like that would be a letdown to me, but maybe not. I mean, I'm willing to watch it play out, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it would be a letdown.
Did you get? I know you have not yet really gotten into watching last night. Did you get a sense of the direction they outlined last night? I know we said we weren't going to get into that, but in this arena, it makes kind of a little bit of sense.
Excuse me. I did see that there's some sort of tournament.
Okay, yeah. So basically, and it was weird. It was like MJF had like names literally drawn out of a baseball cap. And so one of the 3 gets a bye. And then the other 2 face off, and then those 2 face the winner of the bye, and then the winner of that match gets MJF. And then I can say that, and you can still see how it plays out or read how it plays out down the line. Again, I don't know how that. They're all 3 guys are hungry, for it, and they all want to get their hands on MJF and the AEW World Title. More importantly, what's been really interesting and what I've liked that AEW's done, and it's been a thread of what they've done in the past, but in a different way. They've really emphasized the importance of wins and losses, and you're basically saying, like, as you heard me run down those results, you heard Jack Perry, you heard Sammy, you heard Darby, and they're each getting they're pacing each other with wins. So they're basically saying, all right, these guys are on the same type of trajectory win-loss wise, even though it's not beating common opponents. That's why they are deserving of this consideration. I've enjoyed that component of it. Make wins and losses matter without having a ranking system.
Right. And I have too. And yeah, I've enjoyed the storyline. I feel like it's got to go to a 4-way, but now with this tournament idea, I don't know how you get there for sure, but you could, there's still ways. And go to the flip side for a second. I know you got to do something with the Acclaim, but the Acclaim Jericho thing just hasn't really, they weren't joining the Jericho Appreciation Society. They're just messing with them. I mean, that's been obvious since day one, and maybe it was supposed to be obvious to me, but I don't know. It's just been, it's been there. They're giving them something to do. They're on TV. I enjoy seeing the Acclaim, so I guess that part's good, but they can't always be in the title picture. I understand. The hot potato title, I'm sorry, the TNT title. Come on. What are we doing? And I have seen last night's result. I know you have as well. So quick spoiler alert, although I may have just kind of given that away. If you haven't seen last night's, but we've got another new TNT champion. I'm just kind of pulling up the TNT title history here quick. Because I feel like it would be interesting to see the number of days. It has been since Wardlow last summer since we've had a TNT champion who's held the belt for more than 46 days. Since July of last year. That's
kind of crazy. And 3 seems to be the magic number. Once you win the title for the 3rd time, you don't get it back.
and if you go back further than that, there's only been one reign since September of 21 that's lasted 100 or more days, and that was that Wardlow run in July. Last summer, it was 136 days. Since 21, there has only been one reign that hit 100 days. I don't want this title. Here, you take the title. I don't want the title. You take the title. Make it mean something. And if everybody holds it for a month, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, and therein lies, we go back to Battle of the Belts, and this is, I'm not going to go all the way back there, but at 2 points. Number one, I'm irritated by the crossover with Ring of Honor. Not that I don't like Ring of Honor, but I really want you to keep it separate. I don't even want Claudio coming out with the Ring of Honor World Title. He needs to be this universe Claudio and Ring of Honor universe Claudio, and those can live and they can be independent of one another, and they should be, in my opinion. Going back to Battle of the Belts, why would you not have Hobbs defend the title on that show against someone, I'm not sure who, instead of the way he was used, even though storyline wise it made complete sense that he and QT were, I'm not going to call it fodder, but challengers for the Lucha Bros. It just,
they were fodder. And I know QT, I didn't see it, but I'm sure QT took the pin. But you didn't need to beat Hobbs. Even in a tag match with QT, you didn't need to do that. You have other people you could have done that with. Yeah, and I agree with you. If you want Hobbs on Battle of the Belts, sure. Well, here's a funny thing. He had a belt. So use him that way. It's not hard. What are we doing? I don't know. Yeah. Those were both your points on Battle of the Belts?
Yep. Yeah.
Hobbs and the Ring of Honor. Yeah, so make that title mean something. The international title, on the other hand, I didn't pull up, but Cassidy's had that for a while, and Pac had that for a while. I almost feel like that's a more important title than the TNT title now, which is crazy because Tony is clearly not trying to position it that way. And personally, and this might not be fair, I don't, Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs feel like they're focused on and more important than Orange Cassidy, even though Orange Cassidy's on about every single week. And that's okay, but that title feels almost more important because, you know, he's doing the open challenge kind of gimmick. He's winning. He's defending it. He's actually hanging on to the darn thing. So, you know, and I don't mean to play comparison games, but meanwhile, you look over at WWE, you have Roman Reigns, who's been the world champion for, I think, 43 years now. Gunther is coming up on being potentially the longest Intercontinental champion of all time. I feel like Theory's had the U.S. title for quite a while. Like, let the reigns breathe a little bit. Short reigns can work. Some, you know, they have their place, but not every single reign being short reigns. Like, you know, it's almost Attitude Era booking at that point where it was like Crash TV and the title had to change almost every week. The TNT title has changed like every 3 weeks. So I know it's not quite every 3 weeks. I'm being exaggerated, but that bothers me. When I saw, I was on YouTube last night going to watch a show that Katie and I tend to watch many days. Good Mythical Morning, a lot of fun. If you don't see it, it's fun. But and I unfortunately saw a YouTube, you know, thumbnail that said new TNT champion crowned, and I went, well, cool. That's why I shouldn't go on YouTube either. But also thought, geez, like already. And again, where Hobbs, this was his first title reign. Like, build that guy a little bit more with it. And I know, you know, we'll probably get a rematch at Double or Nothing, and Hobbs will probably win the title back there. And I don't know. That just annoys me.
Well, so surprisingly, I don't know that Hobbs is going to come right back and get another shot, because you had a new challenger emerge immediately after Wardlow, belt in hand and had his hand raised.
Oh, okay. So I haven't seen anything about that, so I didn't know that part. So, so maybe we're not. And then it worries me a little bit because the QTV angle is a really good way to make Hobbs be a joke. I don't love the QTV angle, and I don't feel like they're actually using it to do anything other than just, oh, look, they're jerks who make fun of people. Okay, cool. Gives you a chance for Aaron Solo to be the guy who gets thrown around and, you know, power bombed through a table that he missed one of them and smacked his head. And a couple of weeks ago that was nasty looking. So yeah, I haven't loved that. Trying to think if there's anything else that's. I'm with you. The Ring of Honor and AEW, like, it seemed like I understood before they had TV. That made sense. You wanted to keep the brand in front of people. I got it. I do. Sean Ross Sapp made a good point, or Jimmy Van, I think, on one of the Fightful podcasts made a good point. Especially even if they add this other show, and if they end up doing any sort of a brand split, quote unquote, or a roster split, you're going to need those top Ring of Honor guys even more than in AEW. So why am I going to pay $10 a month to watch them in Ring of Honor when I'm going to see them on Rampage, Dynamite, and Collision every week?
Oh, is Collision the rumored name?
Collision is the rumored name, yeah.
Okay.
You know, why would I pay $10 a month to watch them in Ring of Honor? I could see them on TNT or TBS every single week, and I'm already paying for my YouTube TV or my cable subscription or my whatever. That's a really good point. And maybe that's part of why I haven't paid the $10. It's timing. You know, do I have the time? But also, there's nobody right now in Ring of Honor. As much as I love Ring of Honor, and I will always love Ring of Honor because of what Ring of Honor has meant in my life. And that sounds crazy to say about an independent wrestling company, which isn't independent anymore. But it's true. But there's nobody in Ring of Honor that I can't see on Rampage that I really desperately want to see, or somewhere else, like Blake Christian. I really like Blake Christian. Well, I can see him on Ring of Honor, but I also pay $5 a month and I get Fight Plus, so he's on GCW, and he's used better actually in GCW, so he gets longer matches. You know, am I going to pay $10 a month for Metalik? I like Metalik, but I'm not going to pay $10 a month to watch Metalik. I don't know. That's part of my issue with Ring of Honor.
Yeah. So as it stands today, with what we know, we have an AEW World Title match at Double or Nothing. It's going to be MJF defending, as best we know today, against either all three of the other pillars: Jack Perry, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, or one of those three, or something else. We'll see what happens. You have a new TNT champion, Wardlow, coming out of last night, will likely defend against somebody, perhaps the person who comes out
Maybe
after
because
his
that
match.
TNT title doesn't always make pay-per-view either. 15
Very,
matches on a card and the TNT champ can't get a match.
very true, very true. FTR clearly as new champions and on the heels of being tag team of the year in 2022. I would imagine that they have their sights set on a big 23 now. So eager to see who will emerge as their first formal challengers. And that might have happened last night. It may happen later this week on Rampage. Seemingly we'll have a Chris Jericho versus Adam Cole match. I am excited for you to see. I only saw snippets because I was in and out of dozing off last night as I watched this on DVR. I'm excited to rewatch it today. They do a really strong angle where they may not give us a straight one-on-one match, which would be okay because it could extend it. The interesting component is the new names being involved and in the crossover. I'll just say that. And I know we'll talk about this news to come. I'm teasing you out, right? But I don't want to.
And I think there's just a little that makes me think I know a little bit of that, but I'm interested to see it play out.
Yeah. So there's that. Gosh, Orange Cassidy in the international title clearly will likely be in the fold, but who knows? There doesn't seem to be a feud on the table there. And then you got whatever the issue, whatever the result of the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite, and then that gives you 6 to 7, strong bouts right off the bat, and there's going to be 18 when the night comes. I'm just kidding.
You're not far off though.
And I've enjoyed the Outcasts very much in terms of being like a really like evil trio. I think it's also kind of exposed maybe a flaw in the women's division in terms of other ladies that aren't built up well enough yet.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it seems like they were doing the Outcast versus the Homegrown, right? And you have Britt and Jamie, I think, that work really well. But then it gets a little dicey after that, right? The one who would make a lot of sense if you wanted to build towards a women's trios there, if she gets cleared, would be Thunder Rosa. And that could be very interesting because of Thunder and Britt's well-documented personal dislike of each other. But, strange bedfellows kind of thing, common enemy. That could be very interesting if Thunder. It would be more interesting to me, frankly. And again, because of the way they booked them, not because I don't like these wrestlers, but it would be more interesting than Willow or Riho or Sky Blue.
The other interesting thing, yes. I'm sorry, jump in. Nyla Rose. Where's Nyla Rose?
Right, whereas Nyla would be a perfect fit in this Homegrown. Jade could, but I know Jade would fit really well and would be a bigger name than a lot of these folks. Now, depending on who you're going to have win, I realize maybe you're trying to keep Jade out of that for that reason. But until Taya came around, Jade wasn't really doing anything program-wise anyways. And now it seems, Jade and Taya, maybe that's a double or nothing match as well. And I apologize if you said that in your rundown as I'm saying that. But that feels like a big money match coming. And here, there's something. So, of course, the TBS title, Jade is the only champion. She's held it for a long time. Let's be honest, a lot of her title defenses have been like, well, yeah, she ain't going to lose that. She's not going to lose to Vert Vixen or, Ashley D'Amboise or, again, people who eventually may become stars in the wrestling world, but aren't there yet. They're just not. I think it makes the TBS title seem important that Taya Valkyrie, a name that's known in the wrestling world, a name that has some cachet, she comes in and she didn't go straight for Jamie Hayter. She went for Jade Cargill. Like, that makes the TBS title seem important because somebody from the outside came in and said, that's the belt I want. Cool. Nice job. I like that. And Taya would make some sense as a person. If you really kind of want to strap a rocket to her in the AEW women's division, her beating Jade could do that. That could work. Jade is at a point where I don't know that Taya needs that necessarily, but it would also help keep Taya focused on, because we all know Tony Khan has a little bit of a problem, I guess, where he signs somebody, he brings them in, they win 3-4 matches in a row, maybe they win a pay-per-view match, and then they go to dark elevation for the most part. We don't see them for a long time. Please don't do that with Jay White, by the way. Please don't do that with Jay White. And I feel like they're not. I feel like I hope Bullet Club Gold adds some members, and it's not just him and Juice, partially because Juice Robinson is kind of one of those people that doesn't make me want to watch what's on TV right now. I don't know why. Juice Robinson has never clicked for me. Although it sounds like he had kind of a cool angle in the NJPW Strong with Red Rosser last week, where Rosser had a chair with Tony Storm's name on it. He was saving a seat for him, and Juice beat the holy tar out of him and then said, keep my wife's name out of your mouth, which a little callback to Will Smith, I know, but Annette says strap that rocket for some Taya FWL points. So there's our first fantasy wrestling league mention. And with Tom being the one who is chasing Annette at this point, yeah, she's all for Taya winning that title and maybe winning them all, double champ would be great for Annette. But do you have Jade? No, I don't think you do.
I do not know.
No, okay.
No.
There are times where people have folks from different seasons, and I think of it, or just randomly I assign a person to someone in my mind.
I previously had, and
okay.
Yes, even though I wasn't. Yeah. Your recall isn't out of sorts.
It's just not in the right timeline, not in the right season, and that definitely does happen. So yeah, that would I understand that totally. For those FWL points, that would make sense for you. Well, Tom's a big. I don't know if you're watching. I know you listen through YouTube, but Tom had the 2 big thumbs down for you on that one. Well, just time-wise, maybe we should move forward to our other topics here as well. But I think lots of interesting things going on in AEW. I don't know that it was pretty free-flowing discussion, but I think it's a fun time to watch AEW as always. There's some things I like, some things I don't, but that's going to happen. Any company, everything they do isn't going to hit for me. And the things that don't hit for me, somebody else might be loving the Acclaimed and the JAS thing, and that's good. Then that's for them, and maybe they're not loving something I'm loving, and that's
what. And as I was thinking last night, watching Dynamite play out, and I'll finish it today at some point. 3 weeks from last night, I will be live at Dynamite in Detroit, and I'm like, holy cow! Like in the first time, or one of the first times that I can ever recall as a wrestling fan, I'm like. That show is like coming quicker than I'm ready for. I feel like it's just a busy season. Again, as we started the show, coaching baseball, I just got a lot of good plates spinning, and they're all worth spinning. Going to wrestling in 3 weeks is one of those plates, and I'm just like, oh, cool. Not like, oh my gosh, I got to get ready for that. There's nothing to get ready for. You just show up and have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm jealous. I'm hoping they come to Nebraska sometime in the next, 5 years.
Well, the other thing we didn't talk about, I know we're going to transition to the next topic, but the other big thing that's come out, and I think we mentioned it maybe a week or so ago, the big announcement that AEW is going international. They're going to London. Yes. They're going for it's all in.
All in.
All in.
And then the next week is all out.
Yeah, at Wembley Stadium. So arguably what appears to be on paper, the biggest, we'll call it a 10-day stretch in company history coming up later this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see, do they make those pay-per-views on back-to-back weeks? Ooh, that's, if they're $50 a piece, that's steep. Or, we do have spring upfronts coming from TV companies. It's May 17th, I believe, is what I heard on the Fightful podcast. Warner Brothers has just announced that HBO Max and Discovery Plus are going to merge into one streaming service called Max, and they're going to be adding lots of new content. Could this be where we finally get some AEW streaming, and could one or both of those shows stream on Max? that would make me a happy camper because I am already an HBO Max subscriber. So that would be nice because, again, it would not be more money out of my pocket. I'm already paying for that service. And now if I got even one of those shows, maybe I still got to pay $50 on Bleacher Report for the other one. Although I'd be real happy if they just move them all over and, kind of WWE style, instead of $50 every couple months, 3-4 months, I'm getting them for my $15 a month on HBO Max. That would, I'd have to do the math, but it probably would be pretty similar, although they're not getting all $15, obviously, in that situation. But anyways, AEW also debuted at the end of March, their All Access show, which is their reality show. I use air quotes because none of those are reality shows, including this one. I have seen the first 2 episodes, I believe. I think I'm at least 1 week behind. What have you thought of it, Tom? Have you been watching?
I've seen all 3. They've all been on. Like, I've recorded them. I haven't watched them live. It's been in the background, so I certainly have not given it my full attention. It's been interesting. It's been fun to watch. It's not like, oh my gosh, it's backstage and I'm getting information I wouldn't normally get. It definitely appears that they want to make Sammy Guevara and Dr. Britt Baker and maybe Adam Cole down the line as the season progresses, the stars of the show.
Right. Yeah, it's been an interesting vehicle. The one clip, and I believe it aired last week because I kept seeing it in the previews where Sammy Guevara says that Taya was one of the biggest baby faces in the company before she turned. And I'm like, come on, Sammy. Come on. I mean, she was a baby face and she was focused. She and Anna Jay had the big street fight or whatever it was, no holds barred, match. I can't remember exactly what the phrasing on that title or that match was, but we all know the one I'm talking about. And great, but Taya wasn't one of the biggest baby faces in the company. Come on, Sammy. Nice of you to say that about your wife.
Did you just call him Scammy?
No, well,
Sammy. Oh, well, I mean, it would have fit right there. He's trying to run a scam.
Scammy Guevara. But I feel like when they get focused on like this in the reality shows, like it turns them a little more babyface, because if you get into the show and get into that person and their motivations and everything, which is interesting, even if somewhat scripted, I think it's hard to not root for that person then, right?
Yeah. I think the one interesting thing for me has been the Thunder Rosa component, because clearly this is going back to last fall and all of that was going on then. And now Thunder Rosa, who knows what her future is, but to see how they're going to document this here being an unscripted, scripted, reality show, that's going to be interesting. The narrative for how they're going to allow that to play out on TV and then thinking about potential future relationships is what I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, no, and it will be. And I am most interested in seeing, and again, I know, whatever, but the behind the scenes stuff as far as Adam Cole and his head injury goes. I thought the first episode where they kind of focused on it a little bit, it was very interesting. And I thought, regardless to how much scripted or how much, it felt very real, and I think it probably was, Britt talking about Adam Cole will have his time, but we need to worry about, why did I just lose his first name? Austin? Yeah. We need to worry about Austin right now, not Adam Cole. And we all know those things that, most of them aren't using their real names, although Britt Baker does. But that separation of the character from the person, and how hard that is in wrestling. I thought that was a very interesting scene when they were in the car together after the doctor's appointment. I love that as they left, Britt's like, I need McDonald's, or I need Burger King, or some fast food, she said. And I'm like, that's just not what you think you're going to hear from a top-notch wrestling star, and don't get me wrong, Britt Baker works out enough. She can eat a Big Mac if she wants. She's going to be fine. She's going to be just fine. But it was just, I thought it was a very funny line. Like, I laughed anyways when I saw or heard it. Like, oh, I wasn't expecting the scene to end that way. But isn't that life though too? Like, I mean, when you're talking to your significant other and you have that serious, and then eventually at the end of it, you're just like, I need a drink, or I need a Big Mac, or I need a what, I mean, like that's real life. So I thought it was good. And and again, I've been an Adam Cole fan for a long time, so that part is very interesting to me. I've become more of a Britt Baker fan through AEW. I always felt like she was when she was kind of doing Ring of Honor stuff and the things before, but I really feel like she's come into her own in AEW. So that's been interesting, and seeing what Sammy and Ty have going on is interesting too, and the others. I like the Sammy and Eddie Kingston sit down in episode 1 or 2, whenever that was, I think 2. Again, Eddie Kingston fan. So that was cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think later in the season, from what I've seen, like you're going to get more Ruby Soho, which will be really cool. I think that'll give her some depth of character, even though like I think the way they're going to project her there and what she's doing now on TV won't align. So that's the only kind of like disconnect, which you can't do that like unless you're doing like live week-to-week TV, which the wrestling is. This is not. You're always going to have a gap.
Right. Yeah, and that is the one snag, but again, like you said, there's not really any way to it would look very predetermined if they were filming back in the fall about things they were going to be doing in April. And things change, right? I mean, and plans change, people get hurt, the crowd turns on somebody, whatever. I mean, there's just, yeah, you couldn't really do that effectively without looking just incredibly bad. Well, we got about 10 minutes left, and I think we probably want to pop to this third topic. Lots of rumors about CM Punk and AEW maybe working together again. There's rumors that Punk's willing to work with the Elite, then there's rumors he's not. There's rumors the Elite are willing to work with Punk. There's rumors that they're not. There's rumors they're, like I said, could be a roster split so that people that don't want to work with Punk will stay on one show and people that do want to work with Punk will stay on another show, which is maybe the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life.
It's weird to me. And that's a good point to start because like then as fans, like there's enough going on in the world of professional wrestling. And if you're a fan, and maybe I'm giving more credit than I should, I'm looking at you and I that we tend to be more in the know than not, right? Does that like situation for people like us, fans like us, make you then automatically instill a bias against certain people because of this split? Like if you're like, hey, I'm trying to think of a name that really doesn't matter with all due respect. Wrestler, I'm going to not name anyone. Let's say Wrestler X. Wrestler X, you find out is only on the Wednesday show because of their issues with Dax or CM Punk or whatever. And they're on the Saturday show. Do you now like internalize your feelings or externalize your feelings towards Wrestler X because of that or vice versa?
Yeah. Well, and here's my other thing. Jimmy Vance talked about this on Fightful a lot, and I felt the same way, and he does a really nice job of verbalizing it, putting it into, like, that's the inmates running the asylum. Like, Tony Khan needs to step up as a boss and be like, no, we're not doing this. Like, either if Tony Khan decides that it's in the best interest of AEW to have CM Punk back, then he gets everybody in a room and he says, look, I run this company. I own the company. I sign your paychecks. We're going to figure this out.
Yep. And this is why we're doing it, because you want to be part of a movement. So do I, but this is how we get here.
Right. This is how we do it. But we're all going to be professionals. And if you can't be a professional, and this goes for everybody in the room, if you can't do it, then maybe it's time for you to consider employment elsewhere. And I mean, I realize, like, do I want the Elite going somewhere else? No, of course not. Does he want that? No. But I feel like, and again, it's perception way from the outside. I'm not inside, all of that. I feel like Tony Khan's fandom sometimes takes over more than his, I'm the owner. And to Vince's, I'm going to say to Vince's credit, and it hurt a little bit when I just said those words. Vince didn't give a crap, right? Vince did what Vince thought was in the best interest of WWE. Now, we can argue about whether we think that was in the best interest of WWE when he would do things, like people he would cut and people he would sign and people he would push and all of those kinds of things. But Vince didn't let his fandom, maybe he did with certain people, I know, maybe let Brock have a little bit more leeway or John Cena or Roman Reigns or whatever. But those guys were also drawing him a ton of money. They were making the man a ton of money. So you understand how that can happen. But like the buck stopped with Vince. Like what Vince decided went, whether it made sense or not, whether it made fiscal sense or not, whether it made creative sense or not. You go back to Ring of Honor. It seems that in the early days of Ring of Honor, the line was drawn and Gabe had final say. People don't like Gabe because of that. People don't like Gabe for other reasons. Whatever. Effie and Gabe had some sort of weird thing on Twitter last week that was okay. I don't understand. But I just like, if you're letting people pick where they work based on who they're working with, like, no. Like if I walked into my job and I was like, well, I'm going to work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I want this other person to work Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday because we can't be in the office at the same time. Like my boss would tell me either get my stuff together or get my stuff together and put it in a box and head on out. Like, I mean, like that doesn't fly in any other business in the world, and it shouldn't fly in pro wrestling. Do I want CM Punk back in AEW? Here's my answer. If CM Punk and the Elite can get in a room and bury the hatchet and go, hey, what happened was wrong. We all screwed up. We're going to be professionals. We don't have to be best friends. We're not going to have Christmas together. Whatever, cool. But we're going to be professionals. We're going to work together because they can make a ton of money together. And this could be the storyline that like helps AEW get to that next level. Like there isn't another storyline, frankly, in the company right now that I think has any shot of doing it. And I'm not saying this one would, but it's the only one that's got the chance right now, I feel like. So if they all can get along, then yeah, I want to see it. Like, I want to see that.
Well, and look at the stories that have made the most, like, been the most compelling, and that have also made the most money. When you have that element of realism, and the first thing that comes to mind is, like, the boss versus employee, Stone Cold versus Mr. McMahon, right? Granted, different era, different personalities, but again, there's that human piece. Here, I think you can have that as well, right? You can relate with either the Elite or CM Punk, and I'll call it FTR because I'm going to draw a line there and go 3-3. You can understand, and they can give reasons to either agree with them or not agree with them. But when you find that, and then you see them try to, go through the process of this story, this feud, this battle, and watch it play out. That's going to be, it has the potential to be really compelling.
Absolutely. So, and that's got a question, and we just have a few minutes left, so I wanted to hit it here. Serious question. Do you both ever get tired of being worked by the wrestlers? It seems to have gotten worse in recent years. So here, because I read it, I'm going to give you a second to think about your answer there, Tom, because I read it while you were talking and had a chance to think for a quick second. Like that's their job, right? Is to work. If there's a difference between if they're insulting intelligence and if they're just keeping to kayfabe and trying to protect the business. If they're trying to protect the business and I get worked, I'm not as upset about it. Like that's their job, and it's fun to be surprised and to get caught in this story. If people are working because they just think we're all idiots, that's when I maybe get a little annoyed, and it's the attitude maybe. Punk is an ultimate worker. I agree. And Punk also, it seems like from the stories you hear from many people, not just the CM Punk camp or not just the Elite, sometimes can't stay out of his own way. And therein lies the problem with CM Punk, if he can't stay out of his own way. And other people have had that problem too. Like, curious of your answer.
Yeah, so my overall answer is I really don't care, because all I care about, back to what you were saying a few minutes ago, is I care about a really great product, and I care about this promotion being successful so that there's options for me as a consumer. And I want to see great wrestling, right? And great wrestling is not just what happens in the ring. Great wrestling is storylines, it's angles, it's all that stuff too. I'll also then really jump on what you said last there too, in that I do think with CM Punk as a great single out example, he is in one way someone who's like, I want to get back to the wrestling business. but he's also what I perceive to be, not knowing him from Adam, a huge prick. And maybe he has a right to be a huge prick because of his life and what has shaped and cultivated the path he's on. Doesn't make it right, but it's what or who he is, perhaps. And he's made a decision a long time ago, or still does, that is going to be his mantra or his persona non grata in terms of how he interacts with others. And again, can he get out of his own way? Going back to what you said too.
Yeah. That's so.
I believe he's coming back. I believe very specifically when AEW picked the greatest day in the history of the world, June 22nd, and I say that because that's my wife's birthday. Also, it's the first day of summer. To pick Chicago, that we will have CM Punk return that night, and we will launch June 21st. Correct? Yep. We will launch in.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Yeah. Whoops. Karen, please don't listen to the podcast.
Oh my goodness! Yes, that took a turn.
Yeah, I think that night we are off to the races for what will shape a lot of what All Out and All In looks like. And I know we're 2 months out from that, but it's going to come fast. Like I just said, 3 weeks from now, I'm gonna have the privilege to see AEW live and probably Ring of Honor. What am I gonna do that night, Jim? What am I gonna do when I have to see Ring of Honor and AEW in the same building? Worlds collide. And you get to watch Ring of Honor Dark. It'll be great.
I hope it's a great show. I'm gonna be. I hope that our schedules align and such that we're able to record that Friday, because it'd be fun to hear your live experience. I know we had a good time with that when you got to see Blood and Guts, a year ago or so now.
Yeah, and I'm in the lower bowl this year at LCA, so like I should be closer to the ring, maybe a little bit more entrenched in the vibe. I had a great time last time. What I was thinking of last night when I watched the venue, they were at the University of Pittsburgh. They tend to run a lot of the college arenas on college campuses, which tend to be a little bit smaller. LCA is a major stadium venue. Major arena venue, if you will. I'm interested to see what the draw is this year as opposed to last year. Even though they didn't, I don't think, announce Blood and Guts when they put the on sale. It was the Detroit debut then. So will they match it or perhaps exceed it? If they come in less, then that makes me just go, okay, what's going on?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Well, we are up against our hard stop because Jim's got to go to work.
And so does Tom. So
does Tom. But actually, I have to like physically get up and go and get my car. Where
Tom's not gallivanting across the nation.
Right. No undisclosed locations today.
Yeah.
But we will be back on next Friday, back on our normal day, next Friday, next week, and then we'll keep you updated as we move forward from there. But next Friday morning, we'll be back. If you listen to this on the podcast, obviously it'll be up on Friday evening of next week. So, Tom, anything else before we say our goodbyes this morning?
No, this was a fun episode. I really liked catching up and talking about AEW and all of the other kind of outliers. I am excited to dive into, as I work this morning, finishing up Rampage Dynamite from last night. So yeah, have an awesome rest of your week and awesome weekend. And I can't wait to reconnect next week.
Sounds good. Everybody have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.